Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to be kind of doing a throwback, and that is because I am going to be taking a look at the Twilight 10th Anniversary edition, but I'm actually going to be flipping it over and talking about Life and Death Twilight Reimagined. I went into the reading experience kind of both sort of excited to be exploring something that I hadn't read in so long or thought about in forever, but also kind of rolling my eyes because I didn't really think that I would enjoy it the way I had in high school, because now thinking back about all the creepy things and all like the things that were wrong with the book, I don't know, I just wasn't sure how I would feel, did not think that I would like it. But for those of you who don't know, Life and Death is Twilight. It's bonus material. It's basically the same story with a different ending, and it takes all of the characters and gender bends them. So Bella becomes Beau or Beaufort, and Edward becomes Edith. And there are two characters in the whole story that stay the same, and those are Renee and Charlie. And Stephanie explains why she did that. So the reason why Life and Death came to be was because, as she describes in the beginning, Stephanie was tired of hearing Bella be referred to as a damsel in distress and wanted her to be seen more as a human in distress. So she took Bella and created Beau, who's this awkward teenage boy who, you know, moves from Arizona to live with his father, Charlie, in Forks. And there he meets vampires, and you know the story. One of the first things that I noticed were the character names. The character names were kind of a struggle for me. So Bella becomes Beau or Beaufort, and Edward becomes Edith. Jasper becomes Jessamine, Emmett becomes Eleanor. I do love that name. That's my cat's name. Rosalie becomes Royal, which is, I don't know, it's like fitting, but I can't get behind it. And then Alice becomes Archie, which I really disliked probably the most. And then Dr. Carlisle Cullen becomes Dr. Corrine Cullen, and then Esme becomes Ernest, which I also could not get behind, but that's okay. Billy becomes Bonnie, and Jacob becomes Julie or Jules. So the names were just tripping me up because I thought they were so silly. I guess we'll talk about how I feel about the Edward Edith switch and the Bella Beau switch. I actually liked Bella quite a bit more as an awkward teenage boy. I thought Beau had more of a personality than Bella, and I don't know exactly why. He had some really funny one-liners, and it was just a little bit more sarcastic sometimes and just more believable as an awkward teenage boy, I guess. I don't know why that is, but I actually really liked Beau more. I've never really been a fan of Edward, but Edith was amazing. I loved her so much. I thought she was hilarious. She was sassy. She was salty. She was just not taking anybody's shit, and I loved it. I thought she was so funny. She also seemed to have quite a bit more personality than Edward, so it was kind of like Twilight was rewritten, but just better in general. Until the ending. I did not like the ending, but we'll get to that later. I guess I'm gonna get into the changes that were made in the story, so spoilers are coming, so if you don't want to hear them, like, step away. First of all, I'm gonna talk about the scene in Port Angeles where Bella goes off to the bookstore and is almost raped. In this one, Beau is almost shot. He's held up at gunpoint by this group of people who think he's a cop, which didn't make any sense to me. He had bumped into them earlier in the story. So he's like, I'm not a cop. And they're like, you were with a cop. And he's like, that's my dad. And it was ridiculous. It didn't feel very real. Second, and this is the biggest change to the books, was the ending. In the ending, instead of when Bella's bitten, having Edward suck out the venom and have her stay human, Beau, it's too late for Edith. She tries to suck out the venom, but it just doesn't happen, and so he ends up turning into a vampire. And then you have this huge info dump. You have Edith like sobbing, which was interesting because I don't know if Edward ever cried, so that was that was just an interesting aspect, made her seem more human. But there's this huge info dump where you learn like everybody's backstories, you learn about the Volturi, you learn about, oh god, like everything, everybody's history, and it goes on for a few pages. I don't know, it was probably more than a few pages. It was just a lot, and because I don't think that anybody would read this book if they hadn't read the whole series, it just seemed kind of ridiculous to keep it in there. When Bo wakes up, he's totally fine. He's not even thirsty. He's like, hey, hi, everything's okay. Glad that you did this, because Edith is so sad that she had to change him and feeling so guilty. And explains to him that he can't see his family anymore. He's sad, but it's okay. It's just really perfect, and he wasn't crazy at all, and I don't know. I know that Bella was able to control herself more easily, but she also had 4 huge books of getting used to vampires and everything, and Bo just doesn't have that backstory. He's barely ever met the Cullens, and then suddenly they're his family. And then the epilogue is Bo watching his funeral and seeing Renee and Charlie like falling apart, and I just couldn't get behind that. It was just so depressing, and I just, it's horrible. And he was sad, but he was like, it's okay, because I'm with you, Edith. It's okay. I understand that he's a teenage boy, but I still just don't think that that would happen. Finally, we meet the wolves, which I think the wolves just should have straight up been excluded from this story, because they just didn't really have much of a part. It was just weird for them to show up at the very end and be like, yo, you killed Bo, and now we're gonna have to kill you. And then Bo's like, no, somebody else did it, and they just saved me, and it's okay, and I'm still Bo. And then the wolves were like, okay, that's cool. And then the Cullens are like, we're just gonna finish high school and then we're gonna be out of here. We're gonna leave. And the wolves are like, all right. And that's the end. I think up until the end it was a pretty valiant effort. It was pretty cool. It was really interesting just to see the differences in character. 2 out of 5 stars just because of the ending. The only way that I think this would have been better, okay, listen up. The only way that this could have been better, and Stephenie Meyer would not have done this in a million years, but if Bella had stayed Bella but had Bo's new personality, and if Edward had been Edith. So we'd have Bella 2.0 and Edith. I think that would have been perfect. But you can't always get what you want. I want to know what you thought about the book. So if you read it, or if you're not going to read it, tell me why. But if you did read it, I want to know what you thought about Edith and Bo, if you like them more than Bella and Edward, or if it just totally weirded you out. Let me know down in the comments. And if you like this video, like, subscribe. We have more coming like it. And if you have any book suggestions, as always, leave those in the comments. And I will talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.